3, 2, we're live!
Hey everyone, it is July 25, 2016. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to talk about watches and photo apps and music and everything that makes us creative and awesome human beings. This is the iMore Show. Joining us this week, we have filling my vision right now, the lovely and talented Georgia Dow, who spent the weekend destroying me at Pokemon. How are you, Georgia?
Hello. How are you doing, Renee? It's like I've gotten to meet like some of the iMore team. I've been hanging out. We've been catching Pokemon. It seems like I am ready for an iMore show.
She read Serenity Caldwell's article on how to level up your Pokemon and then just blew right past me. It's the worst. I kind of blame Serenity, but I'm kind of happy too. Speaking of which, how you doing, Ren?
I'm doing great. Back from Montreal, where I was watching Georgia catch all the Pokemon.
And enjoying some of our native poutine and smoked meat and things.
So much poutine.
All the poutine. We also got Laurie Gill from the West Coast. How you doing, Laurie Gill?
I'm doing very good. I camped all weekend and did not get to Pokemon Go, unfortunately. I tried to catch them all, but there was nothing in the woods that I could access.
That seems like an oversight to me. Someone log into Ingress and fill that woods up right now.
Well, I don't know if it was the fault of Ingress. It was the fault that there's no cell service where I was at, so...
Yeah, we're still... And that glorious laughter was from Mikah Sargent. How are you, Mikah?
Hi, I'm from the No Coast.
You're what, flyover?
I'm the flyover state of Missouri. So here I am, sweltering in this humid ridiculousness that is Missouri.
So I think if Georgia had her druthers, she would tell you to just breathe.
Oh, Rene, I will never not love your segues. They're so good, and I often channel the Rene segue when I'm doing other podcasts.
Aww.
So, Georgia, you wrote about not only Pokemon Go and, parents, but more importantly, no, not more importantly, but you wrote about how awesome Beathe is going to be. Like, it's going to make me a superhuman? Is that what I hear?
Close. It's close. So one of the first techniques that I teach people when they're dealing with anxiety is to do a breathing technique, a really short, easy, quick breathing technique that would take truly like 3 minutes of your day and would let you be able to control your anxiety system. It's almost like a breathing technique that's like a trick for your brain.
It was your first episode of the Zen and Tech podcast.
That's true. That's true. It was. And what you do is you end up teaching yourself to breathe slowly and deeply. When you're in your most relaxed state, that's the way that we breathe, which tells our brain, oh, I must be okay, everything must be all right, I can handle this. And so it doesn't shoot you filled with all of the anxiety hormones, which will keep you calm and relaxed. But the biggest problem that I have is for people to remember how to do it. They forget about doing their breathing through the day, they only remember when they're anxious, and by then it's too late to have done the practicing you'd need to get really good and get that muscle memory. It's actually neuronal memory, but anyways, we call it muscle memory, to be able to remember to do that naturally. And so this application on your watch would remind you through the day to do your breathing techniques, which is the biggest problem that people have. It's not just doing them, it's the reminder to do them, and then your watch will keep you, stay and comfort you and keep on doing the training with you. And that is, for me, it's going to change my entire practice. It's going to help people faster. They're going to be able to remember to do it. And then in between sessions, they're not going to forget. People are usually good the first day after session with me, and then before like those 3 days in between sessions when they don't see me, they usually kind of die off. But this would be a constant reminder, like me in their brain saying, okay, did you do your breathing today? And so yeah, they could still turn it off and not do it. But this would be harder to do that. So I love it. I'm so excited because now I don't have people can't give me that excuse as, oh, I just forgot. Well, now I know they turned off the reminder. It's that they chose not to want to do it, and that's totally different for it. And you can also like change the amount of type of breathing that you do, change how often you do it, so it's customizable to you. You have great lung capacity, you can do longer breaths.
And this is all watchOS 3 stuff, Serenity? That's magic coming soon?
Yes, this is magic that is not currently available on watchOS 2. However, it's pretty nifty watchOS 3 stuff, and watchOS 3 not that far away.
Also, if you can't wait for your watchOS 3, there's actually a couple of breathe-related apps for Apple Watch. We did a list recently. My favorite on that list was actually the 3-minute mindfulness. It does something very similar. It has a little sort of timer gauge on it that tells you when to breathe in, when to breathe out, and there's different patterns too. So you can choose one that has you breathe in quickly, breathe out slowly, or different patterns like that to deal with different feelings that you're having during the day. So there's also right now there's a couple of breathing related apps that you could check out if you're in a hurry to get your relaxation under control.
And people often think that you have to have anxiety in order to get these benefits, and you don't. Everyone should really be doing these breathing techniques all the time. It helps increase our levels of healing. It helps make your skin better. If you're ill, you'll get better faster. Like, the studies are through the roof. You'll think faster. You'll be able to learn a little bit more easily. So this is good for everyone, not just if you're dealing with anxiety. This will help you no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing. This should be part of everyone's daily routine. Truly, it should be taught in schools.
So one of the things that I'm really curious about is when I did physiotherapy for injury prevention, this was part of that too. And they said that if I did it consistently, when I got injured again or I was in pain again and I started doing it, I would relax faster, and that would let the muscles heal better. So it sounds like you can learn it. Like the time you spend investing in it pays off because you can get back to that relaxed state faster in the future.
Yeah, it does. It really, truly, 100% does. I can put a blood cuff monitor, so even if you have diabetes or high blood pressure or you're in a stressful job, I can put a heart rate monitor on me. I can drop my blood pressure 15 points in 5 seconds. That's a lot. And so it works really, really well. And after a while, if you've practiced this, it's a practice technique. After a while, if you get good at it, your body will naturally go into deep breathing when you're stressed, upset, just found Rene has caught the Pokemon that you were waiting to catch.
No, I had a very specific image. When the minute you said that, I just flashed to Christian Bale sitting on that chair at the end of Equilibrium when Tyke Diggs and everyone else is around him, and all of a sudden it just goes, and they go, oh no, and then just he lets loose. And I just pictured that like you, Georgia. You take 5 breaths, suddenly you're dead calm, and then everyone around you is just gone.
Well, the lovely thing is if you practice this technique all the time, you can do it in one breath. Just
one breath, and we're all gone. Mikah, one breath, and we're all gone.
Right.
So it'll be very polite.
Is controlled breathing the same as meditation, Georgia?
It's a little bit different in that, so mindfulness is a little bit longer, and that's keeping you exactly in the moment, and you're going to be there, and you're only here. Often people spend time, and they're living in the past, which deals with a lot of regrets and hopes and wants, or they're in the future, which deals with anticipatory anxiety and not there. Rarely are we actually here. Like, we're actually here in this moment where we are. The only time that actually exists is this moment, and we spend very little time in it, which is not good for us because time then travels very, very quickly. If we're in the moment, time travels much more slowly, and we can do more with that time because we're cognizant of it. And if you do something that's like, breathing techniques, they're a little bit longer, and that's just teaching you to breathe for longer times. So we also do things such as passive relaxation, which is a little bit longer, and then there's meditation, which is a little bit longer than that, and each one is focusing on something different. Truly, the types of breathing that you do, really all that you have to think about is that you want your breath in to be slow and long and the breathing out to be longer for this. So for the Apple Watch, they're doing the fastest, the one that's easiest to learn and takes up the least amount of time. It's only, like 30 seconds that you're spending on it each time. And so it's really quick to integrate, and that's the first one. And then if you really enjoy that and the feeling that it gets.
Monstrous key power, maybe?
Well, yeah, it actually, like, you say that as a joke, but it does. You're releasing so if you take something like a medication to help monitor your anxiety or depression or your mood swings or you get angry really quickly, you do these breathing techniques and do them enough, you're actually releasing naturally your levels of dopamine, which makes you feel happy and meditative, and your serotonin and norepinephrine. So you're actually, I love that Rene's going through his chi work while we do this. But you're actually releasing your neurochemicals that you want to feel happy and motivated and excited about life and wanting to do things. So a little bit, you're unleashing your little inner superhero, by doing these techniques. They're quick, they're
I
easy,
knew it.
everyone should be doing it. Why are you not doing it now?
I want a proper Qigong app. I want like the teacups and the golden dragon on the mountain and all those things. Let's go on that
Come
for
over to my
WatchOS
place.
4.
I will like get the water cups. We'll
Do some Tai
that.
Chi,
Until
some
then, I
bug
think this will do. I think, Georgia, I was in theory excited about this before, and then you came along and were like, you're going to be a superhero if you just do your breathing, and so now I've got to do it.
No, I have to, yeah.
It's so
Right.
true. It's not a joke. It is so true. When
believe
you're
you.
angry, when you're frustrated, when you're stressed, you're like, I can't do it, I can't cope. You do these breathing techniques and it brings you back to that, like everything just
I don't
want to
make fun of this
away.
because it's so important and people should absolutely do it. But I just had this picture of Serenity Caldwell going like, in roller derby, and just before she even hits somebody, they are exploded away from her with cheap.
Well, the
Like,
problem
the whole
is
track
that
is cleared.
if she's not using her aggression, she's not going to be good at roller derby, so she can't
No,
breathe.
it's Kung Fu
Well, you
Panda
want
roller
it to
derby.
be, you want it to be the right level of aggression. So when I used to do martial arts, if I'm too high up, I'm too nervous, I'm too there, I'm scared or really angry, you're not in the zone. So even for that, you want to be
cardio too.
excited, but you want to be at the right level. So often before I would do a fight for jiu-jitsu, I would get so nervous that I'd have to do some breathing just to bring me into that perfect zone of aggression but control. So even for roller derby, this would make Serenity super roller derby woman.
Absolutely.
Oh my
And I mean, Rene jokes about like moving people with my mind, but breathing is a huge part of a sport like derby, especially because it's a sprint stop kind of sport. So you need to be able to regulate your body temperature and regulate your breathing in order to use your muscles to their peak efficiency. So it's really, really important to learn how to breathe. There's so many people who
I love this app.
sports.
And you'll burn your anxiety off less. You will use up less energy during that period of time, so you won't burn out as quickly. I did scuba diving. I did my breathing techniques for the entire time of scuba diving, and then when all 60 of came back up from the water, even the people that are like masters of scuba diving, I had more air in my tank than them. So theoretically, I have less chance of dying underwater because of this.
Well, I mean, the shark biting thing is even, but like the breathing.
So, Georgia, I have a question for you about the Breathe app, which is that you can set a different number of intervals to breathe. And I think Apple has a set of about 7 or 8 breaths for 1 minute. What do you think is optimal for people who are just starting out? Do they want to go for like the really, like only 4 or 5 breaths? Do they want to start with like short little breaths and then progress?
You're going to know how you feel. That's the only thing with the app, is that you might feel bad if you are not doing it to the level that they are. So at first, what you want to do is you want to just practice it, maybe even not using the application, to see about how many you feel comfortable doing. It's all about lung capacity. So I've done martial arts for a really long time. I have a very long lung capacity. So for me, like, I might want 4 or maybe even 3 per minute, because that's what feels good to me. And that doesn't mean that you're healthy or you're better. Everyone has a different lung capacity of where you feel good. If you end up feeling anxious, or you end up feeling too tired is almost good, but like, you know, tired but you want to be tired and invigorated, you'll know it yourself. And so start off doing it with like 8, and start off with that number to it, and then you can adjust going up or going down from there. But even if you have to, if you want to take 12, and that's normal because you're so used to breathing so shallowly, so when we're anxious, we do those short little chest breaths. And for the breathing application, you want to use belly breaths, and that you'll have to practice on your own. And so I would say start off with 8, then you adjust depending on how you feel. There's no doing it wrong. If you're trying it, don't feel bad about it. Don't get type A and say I have to do it exactly as the Apple application is giving it. You can do it on your own pace to that, and don't feel bad about it. Practicing is better than not practicing, and if you're very strongly type A, you're going to be inside of your head saying, I'm doing this wrong. Stop that. Just do it. Everyone, when they learn something new, are doing it wrong. That's what learning is about, and that's good. Don't feel bad about it. You'll get better with time.
As long as my dantian is spinning and I can take someone's pinky and say skadoosh and they explode, I'll be just super happy with this app.
Oh no.
That might take, I don't know, that might take a lot of training to it, but who knows?
Skadoosh.
How long does it take to set a habit again, or what? You know, the roundabout estimate.
Days, I think.
Do you do it? Do you do it actually? So there's mastery of a habit versus like just getting good at a habit. Usually for the breathing techniques, if you do it 8 times a day, which is what is recommended, is 8 to 12 times a day that you're doing like 6 breaths. That's it. It seems like a lot when I say 8 times a day, but it's really not. It's only like 3 minutes that we're asking for. If you did that every day in 2 weeks, this is going to start to become part of your routine. And then if you do it for probably about 1,000 times, it'll become muscle memory. You won't even have to think about it. You're stressed, right away you'll go.
All right, you've convinced me, because I know I check Twitter more than 8 times a day.
Yeah,
So
breathe.
This could be every time you check Twitter, do a breath.
do a breathing thing afterward,
He doesn't need to anymore. There's a watchOS 3 app which is going to remind him.
which I may or may
That's
not have
true.
on my wrist right now. So.
And
Well,
you can check Serenity's awesome preview to learn more about.
That's true.
Yeah. It's true. All right. Any more thoughts on Breathe before we move on to talk about the
I need
app?
a picture. I need a picture of Georgia in a meditation pose that we then run through Prisma.
Yes, yes, there we go. There's the segue. So Prisma is this awesome new app that, well, it's not that new at this point. Oh, I've got an alarm.
It's new
going
for
off.
Android this weekend, which strained its server capacity and made everyone pay attention to it again.
Yeah, because that's the interesting thing about Prisma. So Prisma is a filter app, which typically those don't get a bunch of attention because, Instagram has filters in it, Twitter has filters in it, I think even Facebook does filters maybe, but Prisma does these really, really cool they're like works of art. They're like paintings by the time the filter is done, and it uses deep learning techniques and all of that fun AI stuff. Artificial intelligence to create the perfect and most beautiful creation. That it uploads to the server and it finds which ones would look the best, which of the filters would look the best.
So I'm paranoid, Micah. Let me just ask you this. So with Instagram, I can try all the filters I want, and it only uploads to the servers when I tell it to. But with Prisma, because it's doing all this stuff server side, the minute I start playing with a photo, it's already on Prisma servers.
Yes, and let me say this. I don't know if it still works this way, but a little birdie told me, at least in the past, Instagram used to do this interesting thing where it actually would start to upload your photo and put it on the server while you were doing filters, because that made it so that whenever you clicked next and clicked post, it was a lot faster for the photo to post. So it actually started to do all of that. Now that's an aside that I found interesting, but yeah, it does go up online. And I mean that's something that you just have to keep in mind. It's the only way for this to work right now. Mostly because Prisma doesn't have access to all of the fun new stuff that iOS 10 is going to be doing.
I'm super curious because, like, for me, I'm almost paranoid about privacy and security and all this stuff. But the kind of pictures I would post with Prisma would go on to Instagram or Facebook, so they're pictures that aren't private. They're ones that I would publicly share anyway. And I figure that's great. And I know some people are concerned because maybe they'll use your pictures in ads or something. But this to me is like I'm controlling what pictures go in there. If it was ransacking my camera roll, we'd have words.
Yeah, I guess the problem is, and the thing that people have been getting upset about, is that it hasn't always been incredibly clear, or it wasn't always incredibly clear that was the case, that your photos were getting uploaded. And so there are going to be people who use this service and don't realize it until someone ends up telling them, or they see it somewhere on Facebook or on Twitter or something like that. Ultimately, right, exactly. Ultimately, I think what this boils down to is there is a reason that privacy policies and terms and conditions exist, and no, most people don't read them, but sometimes you learn some valuable information there. I think that this app would have benefited from being a little bit more clear about the way that it worked in that sense, and could have got ahead of any kind of negativity there. But for the most part, I think it's interesting that, like with Pokemon Go, we saw a lot of blowback whenever we found out all of the things that the app could possibly steal from this, but I haven't really seen much complaining at all about this app and the fact that it's uploading our photos to the cloud and fiddling with them and everything. So I don't know, what's your take on that? The fact that everyone is just like, hey, check out these cool photos, and no one's like, they're stealing my data. What's going on here? What makes Prisma different from Pokemon Go?
Not owned by Google.
Oh.
No, I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious, but I think some people think that because you make a point of it when Google or Facebook does it, you have to make a point of it. And Laurie's article had that in the beginning. There was a disclaimer advising people what was going to happen with it.
I guess that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, to talk about it. I think another reason why there wasn't as much blowback is people don't tend to think that their photo filter app even does something like that. So there was probably a lot of people who just never even thought that was a thing that was happening. So there's going to be a handful of people who realize my photos are going up to the server, but there's going to be a lot more people who just never even thought of that as like they just never thought that could even happen at all. So they never looked into it or worried about it because they don't usually, most photo filter apps don't go up to a server at all. They're just locally on your phone. I think that's why there wasn't as big of a blowback.
I think also the age of the people that are using this. So most people that are going to be using filter apps, they're using pictures that they would already be posting to social media, so it's already out there. And two is that there's a lot of kids playing Pokemon Go and a lot of parents that don't know a lot about technology letting their children play Pokemon Go. And so I think that because of that, a lot of people that are less tech literate were like, wait a second, this is not okay with me, versus a lot of people that would use a photo filter application in the first place are probably a certain amount of techie that they found this application that can do this. They're downloading it, they're using it. They kind of already know that somewhere this photo is happening, and then I'm already going to be posting it onto Instagram or Facebook, onto Twitter. So I'm comfortable with that picture already being out there.
Yeah, I think that's what the most important part is like this is an app to create a thing that in theory you're going to share with people. And so because you're going to share this thing with people, then it's not as problematic. It's different from something like your location that's being tracked every second in something like
your child's location being
exactly.
tracked. That right away, I can just feel the little hairs on the back of my neck going, yeah, I'm not okay with that.
And Laurie, can you explain why in the world do they need to upload to the server? Why can't they make the magic happen locally on my device?
I'm gonna guess, and I didn't speak with anyone to get the details on that, but it's because of the machine learning for the pictures, like you were commenting on. One of the things that makes this stand out from other photo editing apps is that if it's a portrait photo, you'll be suggested certain filters that look really good with a portrait photo, or if it's a landscape photo, those will be pushed to the front as the best looking one for the style that you've got. So there needs to be something on the other end looking at it and deciding oh, there's a mountain, so we're gonna assume that this is a landscape, so we're going to suggest landscape filters. So there needs to be something feeding that information back and forth. Otherwise, it would just be like every other photo editing app where you would just scroll through and find one that you thought looked good, but not one that was suggested to you. So there's a reason for it. It kind of helps you figure out the best looking filter for the photo that you took.
That makes sense. I have a question, because there's one thing that did end up coming up on Twitter and other places. I saw a complaint for this, even though I didn't see.
Was it the watermarks? Was it everyone not turning off the watermarks?
It was the watermarks. So who wants to tell everybody listening how in the world you
Can I just ask though, why is the watermarks were more egregious to people than the sponsored filters even? It was like that's the worst thing ever.
Right?
How dare you put your app name on something that the app created?
There's no in-app purchase. There's no buying the app up front. There's no extra filters to buy. It's completely free.
Just some of them are brought to you by Mountain Dew.
Yes, and Pantene, whatever. So anyway, for those who want to turn off the Prisma tag, the watermark, how does one go about doing that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Laurie. You can do it.
I wanted to comment on the watermark issue. I think the reason there was such a big deal about it, it's hard to figure out how to turn off the watermark. So there were probably a lot of people who thought you just can't turn it off. So
no, but it was their jerk friends on social media being angry at them for not knowing how to turn it off that I think escalated.
I think that was because of the inundation of how it was kind of in your face, Prisma. And I think that after a while of seeing it versus people that love seeing the Nike switch.
Hey, Bob, you can turn that off in settings, Bob.
Why have you not, unplugged that baby? But anyway.
All right, go ahead, Georgia.
So say how do we do it, Laurie? How do they do this?
I'll do it. I'll tell you. Okay, so
right,
you
open your
Prisma
by step
app.
Here.
Yep, open your Prisma app.
Following along.
Done.
And then you're going to see the little settings. I don't know, is this a bad idea to try to show this?
Ooh, the Picasso filter.
There's a little settings app. It looks like a little cogwheel on the right side. Tap that, and then you'll see the little enable watermarks and toggle that switch to off.
Got it.
So it's on here. and then you tap it to toggle it off, and you won't have any watermarks anymore. It's that easy.
Oh, it's so simple.
Magical.
Yeah, see, I think this was a real realization for me that you really can't underestimate. No, you can't wait, what am I trying to say? I overestimate sometimes how easy it is, like, for me to think that everybody just does the things that I do when it comes to technology.
And
So
how
even,
dare they?
even something as simple as, like, when I download an app as a techie, I want to hit the gear and go in and fiddle around with settings immediately. But not everybody thinks that way. In fact, most people don't think that way. And so even though it was behind two taps to make it happen, but it was behind one tap, there were a lot of people who didn't know how to shut off the watermark anyway. And so I just think sometimes whenever we see these complaints and things around, I mean, don't get me started about tech elitism, because I could go on and on, but the fact is there are people out there who need help with even the most basic things, and I don't think it's smart to assume that everybody thinks the way that we do. Empathy is so important, everyone. That's all I'm saying.
Can I give a little bit of why that happens?
Yes, please.
So this all goes back to your own personal beliefs on competency in a certain field. So if you do not feel as comfortable with technology, your first thought was, don't mess with it because I might break it. Your thought, no doubt, is not that. Your thought, your internal belief system says, oh, well, I'm going to mess with it because I'm going to make it even better. I know how to do this, I feel confident with this, and I don't worry that I might break something. Many people don't want to mess with an application that does cool things because they're worried that they may change something that they won't be able to fix. And on top of that, when you break something or do something what we consider wrong because it doesn't work the way that we hoped for, now I feel worse about myself because I'm now a little bit less competent, and that gives you a self-esteem hit. And so for a lot of people that are not as comfortable with messing around with applications, that's why. They've probably had some negative experiences with applications or had other people say, you know what, you're really not that tech savvy, and so they don't learn to fiddle around with things and that you can fix it just as much as you can break it. So it's a little bit of learned helplessness, which is very common in applications because rarely do developers that are developing
Snapchat
applications
makes me feel every day.
think about the user experience in using their user interface.
I feel so dumb with so many of these apps. And the newer apps that come out, the dumber I feel. It's just true, because they all use these new interface paradigms, and it feels like everyone just catches on to them, and everyone on Twitter is making amazing stuff, and I'm just tapping my screen in growing frustration. But I think that there are some really cool filters here, and I really like a lot of them, and they are a little bit slow sometimes, and I do wish there was a way to preview the stuff so that you could see. Like, I would love for them to sort of right away populate a bunch of small squares to give you a rough idea of what the filter is, because they do take so long. I'm kind of nervous to hit, like, I want to see the next one, but then it's like 30 seconds each time, but then they produce such spectacular results, so I'm caught in this like, you know, waiting for Pokemon to spawn feedback loop.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll spend 10 minutes picking the right filter because I want to check every single filter to make sure that I've got the right one.
It takes so long with the rendering, but it's also like custom it's curiosity, where it's like, what would my photo look like with Heisenberg, right?
Yeah.
How is it all gonna work?
Yeah,
Like,
and that.
There you go. Here's my beautiful. I just clicked one of them. That's how my photo would look with Heisenberg.
Wow, that looks like you went to
Like right from a Wolverine comic book.
I was going to say, like, you went to a theme park and you sat down at one of those booths and had, you know, you paid the person and they did a drawing. That's what that. Let's look. They're just so cool. These
filters are incredible.
Are so cool.
They are incredible, and you know, I'm always 50-50 on these kinds of filters because I feel a little bit like, as an artist, I feel like this is sort of taking money away from.
Scary.
Like, yeah, but at the same time, the average person, let's be honest here. The average person who does not really care about art will happily go and buy something from Target to hang on their wall and just be like, well, I want to hang a picture of a coffee cup, so I'll go to Target and I'll find like a coffee cup and I'll hang it.
Oh, why isn't Fracture a sponsor of this show?
Yeah, I know, but that's the thing, is it's like now people can make these things with Prisma, and these people, they still may not be, it may not be an artist hand drawing something, but there were artists who made all of these filters that Prisma has basically computer generated. And now you have something that is physically yours, that is a photo of your stuff. Also, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I really want Fracture to be incorporated into Prisma because I would pay way too much money.
Oh man.
My thing is that if you look at a painting, like if you look at an artist with singular vision, and you see their painting, and you go back to the classics like Rembrandt, it's not so much the style or the brushwork, but that he captured the inner light in the person. It was something that no machine could ever do, and you see it time and time again. Or Van Gogh, when he did the impressionism from it, you look at that and you are physically moved, and it's just something impossible for machines to replicate. Like they can make a bunch of brush stab textures, but you lose the filtered eye. And it's the same thing with photography. Most of photography is the eye of the photographer, and yes, you can crop and do a lot of stuff afterwards, but when you see a good photographer, it's really that holy wow moment, and you're almost blown back. And when you look at great art, it's the same thing. You're blown back off your heels. And this, I mean, they're nice, but it's not the same as looking at one of those masters of art of any era. So to Ren's point, I'm happy that people can sort of get awesome artistic effects on their iPhones. But for me, it stops there. It's their awesome artistic effects, and it's not art.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, then start. What is art? Will be another 6 hours, guys.
Yeah.
It was King of England. He had a sword named Excalibur. Georgia, do I really have to start this whole thing?
You said you have a friend that.
Oh, I have a friend that with a fine arts degree in photography, and I showed her Prisma, and her first comment was, "Oh, finally now painters are gonna, have to deal with the fact that everybody can make their stuff look like works of art," because she's, it kind of bothers her that. Anybody can make their picture look like a professional photograph, but she went to school for 6 years to be able to produce like these great works of art. So she kind of made a joke about finally the artists are getting it too. So.
With GeoCities, anybody can make a website, and then you sort of look at what horrors were unleashed on the web.
But that's a good point. It's like anybody can make a comic book drawing of their photo. But it's not going to look as good or necessarily as special as if an artist did it.
Yeah, I think the same thing applies to, so for example, the photo that I have as my avatar everywhere was done by Daniel Forelli, who goes by Jellybean Soup on Twitter. And when I changed over all of my different social media accounts to that photo, I had at least 3 people ask me, "What app did you use to make that? Where did you make that? How did that work?" And I had to respond to them and say, "There's no app that can make this. I commissioned somebody to make this for me." And I mean, there isn't an app that can do exactly what was done there, where he captured the likenesses of my dogs and included all of my favorite things in the photo, and then captured my likeness as well. I think that they thought it was like a Bitmoji type deal, but nobody could get my little Henry and Mizzy into the photograph like an actual human being with very, very awesome artistic skills. So, and two, like, there were 3 different styles that he showed me, and I don't know. I think there will always be. Well, I shouldn't say always, because on an infinite time scale that could change. But as far as we can tell, and as far as I want to believe, there will always be a difference between what an artist can do, a real living, breathing artist can do, and what an app can do. But this is really cool, and I think that it opens up the opportunity for more people to get something like this. I don't know.
Take that, go-playing robot.
Or that elephant that can paint paintings.
Oh, I love elephants. Oh, elephant Bob Ross. That's going to fester in my brain for a while. Yes, beautiful fluffy peanuts.
Happy peanuts.
Just sitting over here in the corner.
Oh, dear. So how are you going to transition us into talking about Apple Music, Rene?
Oh, I was just going to listen to a playlist while you guys talked about Apple Music. I'm looking for some really cool alternate ones.
Ren, why don't you take us into this?
Yeah, so when I wrote my Apple Music 1 year later review, one of the things that I kind of highlighted that I really didn't think had been getting a ton of play is Apple Music's radio section, Beats 1. It's kind of a strange and unique experiment. It is a live digital radio station in over 100 countries. It's basically like if you took Sirius FM and then just shoved it on one channel with a bunch of the world's sort of top and up and coming DJs. And a lot of people kind of took one listen to Beats One's kind of primetime shows, and they're like, yeah, this music isn't really doing it for me. It's a lot of hip hop and a lot of modern pop, modern rock and roll in the mainstream hours, which is to say in the hours between basically 10 a.m. in the morning to about 7 p.m. at night. Or 8 p.m. at night, I guess. And people wrote off, despite the fact that like there are some good DJs there, but that's understandable, You cannot like popular mainstream music. However, Beats One kind of has these secret hidden features in the form of these 1 and 2 hour blocks of shows that they run at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and 11 p.m., and then all the way throughout the weekends. And then they rerun those early in the morning, of course, on Eastern time for the folks who are in other countries. And these shows, there are about, I think, 30 total that have been produced, and I think about 16 or 17 that are live right now and actively adding episodes. And they remind me a lot of essentially musical podcasts, because Apple Music has basically taken a ton of really, really smart artists and DJs and songwriters and singers to host these shows and basically make new playlists and interview people during their 1 hour block. So one of the first ones that got a huge amount of praise at the very beginning of Beats One was St. Vincent's mixtape delivery service, because it was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
St. Vincent's, who was a pop star, essentially creating mixtapes for random people who wrote in asking her. And the first one she did was like this little 7-year-old girl named Piper. It was so cute. It was so cute. But these shows have continued, and Apple Music is actively investing in them. So we had Brianna Wu guest wrote for iMore this week for the network, talking about Anna Luneau, who's a pretty infamous DJ, Australian DJ, who has been running a show on Apple Music since its inception called Hyper House, which is a dance hip hop infusion show. And again, people look at that and they're like, oh, well, that's the kind of music that I don't actually want to listen to. But using this as an example, it's still really cool that this is taking what would be normally like 10-minute dance beats, and she finds 4 and 5 minute kind of excerpts to ease people into the idea of this is what modern dance music is. And you may not like some of it, or you may like some of it, but I'm going to give you like all of these little tastes, and you can find something that you like, or you can listen to a different one of Apple Music shows. And she was a guest host for Juliet Anuga, who runs the 3 to 5 p.m. hour this all last week, and was playing some remarkable stuff, not just hip-hop dance music, and interviewing a couple of really, really interesting people. And it's just, I find these 1 hour blocks, these hidden shows, to be spectacular. When Apple Music like tries to promote itself as like, we provide a curated music experience, like we really want to make sure to find new music for you in a way that might be appealing to you. Beats One is a huge part of that. They're these little shows.
They should be in the commercials.
They really should. Well, I was just looking through. Someone was asking me in the comments of Bree's post about, oh, well, I don't want to listen to dance or hip hop, and aren't all of the shows dance and hip hop? And I'm like, no, there are a whole bunch of different things. And I discovered Haim Time, which I never actually had clicked on before. Haim Time is hosted by Haim, which is the Grammy-nominated band. And their playlists are fascinating. Like, I just clicked on one of their playlists from 2 weeks ago, I want to say, had here we go, has California Girls by the Beach Boys, and Viva Las Vegas, Elvis Presley, Midnight Train to Georgia, Sweet Home Alabama, Chelsea Morning by Joni Mitchell, Graceland by Paul Simon. And it's these wonderful like really,
that is so awesome.
Playlists. Yeah, exactly. And it's like I don't think people realize that Beats One is playing, Sufjan Stevens right up next to Paul Simon, or Joe Walsh and Lynyrd Skynyrd back to back. But these little shows are really wonderful bubbles of not only the artists who are hosting them and their taste, but it's a really interesting way to smash up new and old music and to find new tracks. One of the first shows I listened to besides St. Vincent's was also Elton John's Rocket Hour, and that show I love that show because Elton John, his mission statement is, I am going to show you the history of how this all works. So we're going to have a band on who's a modern band who's just done something. We're going to interview them and ask them about their influences. We're going to play some of their influences, and then I'm going to show you, like, in between all of these other artists that fill in the gaps and that, like, connect the 60s to this modern rap track. And it's such a cool, it's a cool concept. It's really something special and brings passionate people, I think, people who find music interesting and music theory interesting. It gives them a really special place to kind of discover.
What I like about him so much is that it's the perfect balance for me, because if I just listen to an album I know, then it kind of feels boring while I'm working or while I'm driving. But if I put on just the plain radio, then I never know what's going to come next, and sometimes I don't like, and you worry, like you get this stress over what if I don't like and I have to change a channel. But like this, you know enough about what's going to come that you know you like it. You get familiar with the shows, and you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be an hour that you can just relax and enjoy. And that takes away both the boredom, but also the stress of those occasional songs you don't like. And it's sort of the best of both worlds for me.
Yeah, I very much feel like that. Have you guys listened to any of the Beats One shows?
Whenever Apple Music first launched, yes, I did a lot of listening to the Beats One shows, and I kind of went away. But I've been hearing a lot lately about people hyping some of these different shows, and I think that there's some possibility there, whether it's trying to find some new music to listen to, or like you said, interesting things where we're talking about music theory and how one song can follow another that you wouldn't expect, or the fun things like creating a playlist for a specific moment or something like that. I think that that's a value that Apple Music has that, of course, a lot of other music streaming services don't, and so that does set it apart. That they've got these professionals working to, do these live shows. Like I was thinking about it not too long ago, and the commitment that it takes. It's like, we are hiring you to come in and do a radio show every day, and so make that happen. It's just, I don't know, it's really cool. And I think that's a big commitment for the performer, for the host, but it's also a big commitment for Apple to really stick with it and say, this is what we're doing, and we're launching a Beats worldwide, always on, always going, 24/7, blah blah blah. And to keep that going is really neat. So I don't know, there are probably some gems I'm missing out on.
You see, I did when it first came out, but unfortunately the interface was such a nightmare and such an unpleasant experience for me that I haven't gone back, and every time I open up the application, I'm like, this is such a mess, looking like such a mess, that I'm like, I don't know how to do what I want to do, and then I get something else that I didn't expect, and I'm like, you know what, I think that a lot of people feel that way about Apple Music right now, and because of that, it's keeping them away. And the problem is that if at launch, when everyone's ready to go in, it's not a comfortable, zen-like, relaxed, I understand how to use this experience, I think that a lot of people get turned off by that, and I think that people that are techie might continue at it because they feel like, you know what, I can do this, I can figure out how to make it work, and I can make it work for me, but I think that they might have lost a certain amount of momentum that they had because of, at launch, it was a little bit messier, and they're trying to fix it up like that, but it's always harder. First impressions are really important.
They are. What about you, Laurie? You listen to any live stuff?
I listen to Mike D's show every once in a while, but for me, for a different reason, I'm like Georgia. It's not that I find the interface to be messy so much as I don't find that it caters to. I think it's kind of niche. I think that Beats Music or Beats One is actually, it caters to a certain type of music listener, which is kind of the pop music, dance music, hip hop, jazz. But there's a lot more out there, and I don't mean just rock and roll. I mean I'm surprised that there aren't. There might be an indie rock station, or an indie rock show, but I haven't found one yet. And that's kind of more popular. And for me, the punk rock. Where's the punk rock? Where's the hardcore and the thrash metal and metal alone? Those are all really popular genres of music that I'm surprised Apple hasn't tried to cater to yet. So for me, I don't really listen to Beats One because it just doesn't cater to my taste in music. So I kind of stick with the playlists and the For You, which I've generated some great playlists in the For You section just because of listening to music, Apple Music that way. But Beats One, I try every once in a while, but a lot of the times it's just not my music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that I've noticed. As they expand their custom shows, they have seemed to try and branch out. But I really think, you know what, Laurie Gill, I think you should write an op-ed on that. I think you should demand that Apple include some punk rock.
I think
Beats
you might
really.
see that sometime soon.
They might try to poach her though to do the show.
It's true. It's true.
I would do a show. I would do a show for Beats One. I'm just going to put that out there in case.
24/7 live breaking new music with Laurie Gill.
I mean, you're close enough. You're not super close to LA, but you could do a once-a-week show in LA.
I could.
I could see it. I could see it.
They could twist your arm into flying you out to do a
Zane,
show.
I know. I guess.
You have our contacts.
Yeah, I mean Zane's listening right now, so. Zane. Awesome, yeah. I think there's a lot of good stuff out there that I haven't found, that others haven't found, and I was just talking on another podcast that I do actually about Apple Music playlists and the library, your iTunes library and things like that. And I've really gotten very laissez-faire about, and I'm probably saying that wrong for all of you French speakers. I apologize. But I've gotten super laissez-faire about my iTunes library, and it doesn't really, it doesn't matter to me anymore. I find the music that I want to listen to, and I play it, and everything's fine. And if I don't have to worry about my library, then I don't ever have to complain about it. So it's been pretty great. And I think that, Beats One is one way of doing that. I do think the other reason I don't really listen to Beats One is I'm still too much of a control freak for that. And so not having control over what song plays next. Like, I don't like the regular radio in the car. I don't ever have that turned on. And if it's on, I have like a reaction. Get that off. So I'd rather just pick out my music. But yeah, I think that this certainly can help with music discovery, and like I said, I think that this sets Apple apart. But we've got to talk about Apple Watch bands and holding them and keeping them safe, because we've been promising this to the listeners and to the viewers for so long.
We lied.
We lied, Georgia. We lie. They're off all night. Would you like to explain for those who might not know, and then remind those who do know, and apologize to those who've been waiting all along, what your original challenge was for everyone?
Well, I think it was your challenge.
Okay, it was. I'm trying to pass this off to you, Dow. Come on.
You gave me the baton, but I was like, no, I'm not taking this one.
I just had a moment to breathe, and then I was like, I'm going to blame it on Georgia.
So what we had a challenge, and this is a challenge that's not just to us, but also for you at home. So we do something that's community-based. And the challenge was, what do you do with all of these watch bands that you have purchased? Where do you put them? How do you store them? Could you make something better to store them with? And so the challenge was in 2 weeks, which ended up being, I think, 2 months. So sorry. Oops. What do you do with it? Go out, get some hot glue, go purchase something, make something up, be creative, make something horrible. Does not matter. How do you store your watch bands? And so that was to all of us. And so I want to know, did you make a watch band holder, Mikah, and did everyone else? And what do they look like?
Okay, I will go ahead and start. I've clicked so that it stays up on me for those of you who are viewing. I did not make one. I chose to repurpose something that I had that wasn't getting any use. A long time ago, I bought a pair of sunglasses from Tom's, and the cool thing about that is when you buy a pair of sunglasses, they give one person cataract surgery or a pair of eyeglasses. So you're giving someone sight whenever you buy a pair of these sunglasses, which is super cool.
That's awesome.
But they come with this awesome leather case. And for those who are listening, it's like now it's a weathered leather case. It's very Indiana Jonesy, and it's got the Tom's logo stitched to the top of it. But it unzips, and Foley, listen to that. And it opens up, and not only does it have this cool stuff on the inside, but look at that. My Apple Watch bands fit so nice and neat within there.
They do look neat inside.
So I've got them.
Coordinated.
Yes, I've got them all stored in there. Oh, there they all go. Got them all stored in there, nice and neat. And
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They're all over my desk now. But the cool thing is, especially with the sport band, I've come up with a technique where you just slide one into the other and you can lock it into place. And so for the leather band here, I just slid the little blue piece over the two of them. So it's stored right here like this. And then my black leather loop band is just like that. So for anyone who's listening, basically I just made them a certain length so that they can fit inside of my case, and I zip it up and they're good to go. I don't know, I found this and I realized that I wasn't getting any use out of it because I use my sunglasses all the time, so I don't store them in a case. And it was just sitting in my drawer. Actually, it had some change in it, so I dumped the change out and put my Apple Watch bands in it, and it's a nice little, like I said, thing to carry around with me wherever I go if I need to. The other thing I want to talk about, and let's see if I can't, I'm kind of scared about screen sharing simply because I don't know. Oh, neat. Okay, so
just do a window, yeah.
It does. That's awesome. Okay, so this is a window that I'm sharing. It's called the Mono Chest from Monoware Design, and not only is this just cool on its own, but also whenever you buy one of these Mono Chests, you get a band made by Monoware Design. But basically, it looks like almost like an iPad, like a iPad Pro leather case that goes over the top of the Apple Watch, and you can see that there's actually a little cutout where the Apple Watch kind of sticks out, and you can look at it and see that it's charging or see the time and stuff like that. Now on the inside, there's a spot for 5 different bands at least. One of them is a longer one if you've got like a link band, and then there's an ad. One of them is a longer one if you've got like a link band, and then 4 of them are for the ones that can kind of be folded up like I have them.
I would need so many of those, Mikah.
You would need at least 3 portfolio here, and then the Apple Watch actually fits into a different spot on its own with whatever band you're currently wearing. And what's super cool is you can route your charger into it. So the charger comes out of the bottom, and it routes into the inside, and it folds up, and I believe it's got magnets to hold it in place, and I think it's pretty neat. It's really slick and a nice little book type carrying case that I think was a pretty clever idea. So yeah, that's from Monoware Design. It's called the Mono Chest, and like I said, whenever you buy one, you get a Monoware band from them as well. So that those are my 2 picks. And who's next? Who else did their homework in 2 months?
Georgia did mine. Georgia, your turn.
I'll do mine and Renee's.
Okay.
I outsourced.
You
got an expert.
Okay, so I wanted to do one that you could do if you don't have any cash, but you want to have a band holder. And so I thought to myself, what would be a good way to store your band? And so what I did was I took a box, just a regular box from, I don't know, I forget where I got it from, and then I just used some elastics.
Nice,
and
Georgia.
So this is where so I also, similar to you, I just locked them in place. Apple has already created a great way that both sides of the band, if you don't have a watch attached to it, still fit. And so I elasticated them, and I was going to finish. What elasticated is
elastication.
Sure, yeah, you just made it one, Shakespeare.
Elasticized. It's like Emojify.
Elasticized. I'm going to use that in another podcast and see if they call me out on it. So what I did was I bought a whole bunch of elastic bands, and I then took a little hole puncher and I punched 2 holes. It actually was just, it was like an ice pick, but anyways, it's for art projects. Georgia with an ice pick. It's a really
That's
scary
terrifying.
thought. Made 2 holes in it, and then I cut the elastic and wove it through. This is the back. I didn't fix it so that you guys can see what a
great.
nasty mess the back was. Then I'm just gonna stick a black sheet of velvet or something else on top of it, so it looks nice and clean. But they're just stuck on the other side, and then I taped them. I would have probably actually glued them, but anyways. So I taped them down, and then I'm just gonna place another piece underneath so that it still looks really nice. So I'm gonna stick a little Apple logo on the back. It's probably not gonna glow. Don't go crazy. But so that's one of them, and this fits, and they're really nice. And the funniest part is when I changed bands when I went camping, I was like, I did this, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Mikah. This was great. I'm like, oh, I have all of my bands here. So this one, Rene can steal this one, but actually the one that I did for Rene was even easier. So cool. So this one was just, I went to the dollar store and I got some little jewelry cases. Now I'm going to take my watch and band out of here so I don't do what Mikah did. Okay, and so I just grabbed these little cases and I just glued them together into a little tiny organized set. Smart. And you can stack these on top of each other. So you can do a full 6, 8, 16, whatever you want, bands, and then you just place your bands inside of them. And they fit nice and easy, really, really cheap. Go down to the dollar store and you just glue them together, and then you have a little area to keep all of your watch bands.
Wow. Wow. I love those. In fact, I'm going to make that elastic one now. That's a great idea.
Really, really good.
Yeah. I'm impressed.
It's like the one that you showed for $89, except it's not $89.
It just requires one Georgia brain and a dream.
Yeah, and you can charge it while in the case too. So
yeah, you could even take your ice pick and route your charger into it if you wanted to.
Yeah, I might. That would be a lot of ice picking, so I might cut a hole. But
that works too.
Way you want to go about it.
Well, I did a great job on that one.
You'll use the ice pick. Yeah, Rene, great work on that.
Yes, that one's Rene.
Great. That's really those are awesome. Do we want to go to Laurie? Do you have anything for us?
I'm gonna argue that I wasn't here when you guys took the first challenge out. So
not it.
That's my excuse for why I don't have one. Even though it's been 2 months, I could have come up with something. I'm sorry, I don't.
Where do you keep your bands?
They're sitting right here on my shelf. I just reach for them when I want them.
Reach for the bands.
So you actually need to do this.
I know, because they're just sitting there in a pile. They're not,
right.
Well, that's okay, Laurie.
I have a box full of watch parts.
Oh my goodness!
Oh no, my heart.
Rene,
my heart.
Rene, you really are gonna get this, so you can put them all nicely. That's not okay.
Is that a box of tea or?
You close your eyes, you put your hand in, and you figure out what band you're wearing that day.
No.
No, that's not okay. Not okay.
No, that's kind of fun. The randomness of not knowing which band you're gonna wear.
It's an Apple Watch box holding.
I don't know if I want. Yeah, no.
Ren, what about you?
All right. Well, I did not make one because I already have 3 different things that I use to carry my watches. So I'm going to show the one that everybody can buy because I think it's kind of spectacular and I've been using it a lot.
I like spectacular.
This is 12 South's invention. So if you notice, that is my Apple Watch sitting on there right now. It's sitting on there because you can stick your magnetic charger right inside. And if you open this up here, it allows you to basically thread your magnetic charger here, and then you can loop all of your wires so it's, it doesn't get, and then you can put your bands right in the middle. And when you want to charge, you just take this cord out and you pull it out to the length that you need, and there are little holes on either side so that can close flush, and you can just snake this off to charge, and then you can just pop your watch here, and then that charges it. And
I want that.
You can also tilt it, right? You can tilt it like this, so if you're charging, you can have it sideways and turn it into nightstand mode. Yep.
That's great.
Those are some clever people.
Yes, they are some clever people. I tried this out a few months ago, initially thinking, well, this is going to be kind of a gimmick, and do I really need, a portable watch case? Like, I just wear the watch, and how hard is it to carry around a cord? But let me tell you, the amount of times that I successfully charged my Apple Watch when on a trip before this was very minimal, because the idea of setting up charger for my Apple Watch, charger for my iPad, charger for my phone, it ended up just being like, dead watch, I'm too tired. This is literally, I just take it out and I pull out the cord and plug it in. And just, for some reason, it seems a lot easier to me, which is awesome.
Yeah, we went away on a trip, and actually my watch was not charged because I had I brought my Apple charger, but it was in my car, and then I didn't bring it in. So that's absolutely it. You can just grab it. That's one of the things you bring. One less thing to think about.
Yeah, and it takes care of all of your bands, so it's not super stressful. And then my other two watch band holders, one of them is basically a drawer. I put little dividers. Yeah, my fiance has an old, like, 1950s upright bureau that's very nice, and then there's two tiny little drawers that I think hypothetically were meant for, like, kerchiefs at one point. They're too thin to really put anything in except watch bands, which work perfectly. So I just put little dividers in that, and I just have a little watch band in each one.
Neat.
Cool.
So
Alrighty. And now I guess it's time for the ones that were sent in from our listeners, yes?
Our awesome listeners? Yeah, totes. Totes, Laurie Gill. I'm just going to set up a screen share. And we have a whole bunch of them. I'm going to go through some of the more interesting ones. So one of the more interesting ones we got was a screenshot from Amazon, where we just see a very nice sunglass-looking case sort of thing. That might be good if that is your bag of tea. You can make some tea with that. Other people are like, why are you guys even spending any effort on this whatsoever? Don't you have a sandwich bag?
Love it.
So this is literally, for those listening, this is literally watch bags in a tiny little snack bag that you would send a kid to school with some, like, crackers
You know what
or
that
cookies
is?
or something.
The best part is that it looks like an old sandwich bag.
Yes, it's
It looks
recycled.
like they used
Yeah,
a new sandwich bag. It's like just one that was laying around and
It's
used.
grunge.
It's unapologetically plastic is what it is.
Yes.
Medically plastic.
Okay,
Love
so
that.
next we have. Come on. Next we have. This looks slightly. This is a similar concept to what Mikah showed, but just a slightly different look to it. So this is a translucent green sort of an eyeglass or small tchotchke case.
You can get an idea before you even open up. It's like, I'm going for the black one this time.
It says Zenny or Zeni or Zenny or something on it. So and it's got sort of a
Bless you.
Zenerific. With some triangular patterns on it. Yeah, and you could just fill this up with whatever tchotchkes you wanted. What else do we have? We have... Oh, and this was a nice one. This was sent in to us.
Yes.
I really liked this.
Yeah.
This was a multi-step process too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pull up the video that came with this because it's pretty awesome.
That one's pretty. That one's my favorite one.
I mean, it's perfect. And we'll see. It's been like CNC machined. It's perfectly cut out for the bands. It was a multi-step process, and we got to kind of follow along. And there's an Instagram actually that they sent us that shows kind of the process of the whole thing. So. Really neat.
Here it is. It's Steve Tswida. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Tswida. And I'll just start that one.
Now we can't hear that.
Oh, you can't hear that? That's the word. So anyway, Steve is showing us how he took all the careful measurements and shapes for the woven nylon bands and for the sports bands, and then he made it looks like a CAD drawing.
Wow.
Out of it. We'll include this video in the post and in the links. And
He went all out.
Wow, look, that is
really
like
did.
some really high quality camera work.
it looks like he has a Death Star laser that let him cut it out in a maker's shop.
Is
that
he going
wood?
to offer
he's,
to make those for sale is what I'm wondering.
Right.
Yeah, because we need to buy one that does.
Kickstarter.
Oh,
Rene.
it looks so good. That's the 3D model.
Yeah, so he made a cardboard prototype, and then an acrylic was the second version, and he was super happy with the shape at that point, but not the material because acrylic is junky. So what else
Wow.
escalated to?
Aluminium. Aluminium.
Oh no! Oh, that's
Aluminium.
amazing.
And he CNC'd it. So just like you'd make a MacBook or an iPhone, he made.
Wow. Talk about like this capturing the spirit of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And chamfered the edges, of course.
Yes, it's got chamfered
Of course.
edges.
Of
Lord have
course.
mercy. Before bead
And then
blasting.
we have a picture of it all, like the
Bead
beauty.
blasted, anodized.
It's been anodized too? Wow.
I think I would have left it with the aluminum.
Apple needs to
look it.
buy this process.
I think that Apple should hire him to do something because
Wow.
gorgeous.
From Calgary Protospace, which is just all shades of spectacular.
Amazing. That's phenomenal. I'm blown away.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
And I think the title even said, For iMore Show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
And
So
we'll make
there's
sure
a
we play
there's
it.
a winner of that challenge. I think
Yeah.
Steve,
Well,
Steve is high on the list.
Though
And-
the Ziploc
Yeah.
plastic bag is a close second.
Yeah, that almost wins my heart, but
If you
that
have a
wins my
CNC
brain.
machine, Steve totally wins. If not, then your little sandwich bag.
Yes. In fact, I'm going to just throw away this Tom's case, and I'm going to get a sandwich bag.
I use
Because
sandwich
you
bag.
can actually see what watch bands without having to do anything are in the sandwich bag. You can even
Exactly.
push pin it onto a wall.
Yeah.
And if I don't push pin it, it's almost waterproof, so I could take it with
push
me.
pin it not in the bag part. You push pin it on
right.
the top part.
So
Right,
versatile.
like you've never done this before.
It's waterproof. This is like it's nature proof. I could probably have a cow
Nature-proof.
walk on it and it wouldn't break.
Don't have a cow, man.
Don't have a cow.
All right, so that brings us to the end of another fun-filled episode of the iMore Show. Mikah Sargent, you did a spectacular job weaving us all together today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Weaving us together like a woven nylon band.
Snap! Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me making terrible puns at Mikah Sargent and, of course, on iMore and a couple of other podcasts, but definitely not at anxiety-videos.com. That's another.
No, who would even
host.
do that? Who would even do that? Georgia, who would do a site like that?
Well, I would. So if you're dealing with anxiety or depression, you can check out anxiety-videos.com. We're also going to be shooting today, right after I leave here. I'm zipping off to shoot a video on depression and boundaries and consequences, and we're redoing video 1 of Anxiety series. If you don't want to check out Anxiety videos, you can also check me speaking at the Fireside Conference. That's in Walden, Ontario on September 9th, 10th, and 11th. And I'm also going to be the keynote of Coco Love in Philly in October, and then I'm doing Yosemite in March. So join me there if you can't, and we can chat about watch bands, Pokemon, or not.
Stuff.
Breathe.
And all that stuff. And you're at Georgia_Dow on the socials.
Yeah, don't even. It hurts.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
Laurie Gill?
You can find me writing on imore.com, where I'm very prolific.
Yes.
Or you
Quotes
can
per
find me.
Quotes per lip.
Or you can find me blazing metal at my local clubs, or you can find me on Twitter at Appaholic, APPAHOLIK.
Do you have the at Blazing Metal handle as well?
I wonder if I'm sure somebody has that one, right?
We can find it. We'll find it out. What about you, Serenity Caldwell?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Saturn, SATTERN, and on Pokemon Go a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, we were sitting down, and there was like a tower, and then 2 minutes later, there were just like 3 of Serenity's beasts just overblowing the whole thing. It was, anyway.
I got to give a live update really quick. Steve, the guy who made the CNC'd awesome Apple Watch band holder, says that he also votes for the sandwich bag.
No,
Certainly be less work.
That was awesome.
no,
Steve, we have to get you to do one for Renee, so you have to like tweet me
no,
out.
there's
what
not
kind
enough
of price.
aluminum.
There's
What?
not enough aluminum
Not
in the
enough
world.
aluminum.
There's probably not enough aluminum.
You
That's
would
probably
drain the
true.
world's
Like
supply of aluminum.
$1,000
If you
of
have-
aluminum.
If you are a belter and you have access to all of the meteorite aluminum, you can reach me at Rene Ritchie, and we will figure out a way to ion drive that down here to Earth. Thank you all so much for joining us. The show is delightfully edited by Metzendorf. That's how you pronounce his last name. Jim Metzendorf. Thank you so much for doing that, Jim. Thank you all for joining us. We're trying to do the shows live as much as possible, so we really appreciate the audience. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll be back on Friday.
Bye, friends.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye, everybody.